9, 8.
You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Everybody, look at who we have. Someone who actually can talk, intelligently about comic books instead of saying, "That's cool, we liked it."
Yeah. Yeah, but I woke up in a negative mood today, so
are you gonna rip them a new butt? All of these
yeah. I'm actually going to attack a letterer on this. So
wow. We haven't ever had that before. Write this down in the history annual. Letter got served.
It's almost like Kyle didn't leave.
Kyle's still driving back from his big event, so it's us guys. We have to play.
Yes, we got it going a little bit different today because I didn't know till right after I got done making the slides, Miss Jim was going to be on the show. So for once, we're starting with me.
Yay! And
so this is Garfield number 3. Couldn't find one with the trade dress on where we get our covers from, but Garfield number 3. And this is just another fun Garfield book. There are 2 stories in this one. There's a lasagna heist, come on. But funny enough, it doesn't involve Garfield. It's Garfield's dad, Vic, who's on the cover here with him. Now, if people out there didn't know, these Garfield books take place after the new Garfield movie that just came out, the one with Chris Pratt voicing Garfield. These take place after that. So we got Garfield's dad, Vic, here, and he has this crew. And the crew decides, we're going to do a surprise heist for you. And what better place to heist than the lasagna factory? So I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a super sweet, like, heart-tugging moment in this book. And Vic ditches the crew and kind of forgets for a minute. Wait a second, wasn't I doing something? But it's a really sweet moment. And the second story is about these 2 dogs they're in a security office, and their human comes in and notices that everything is just chaotic in there. She has this app on her phone. It tells the dogs, tell me what happened. So this recounts from the dog's point of view everything that happened leading up to that moment. It's just a cute little story. You don't read Garfield for something like super heavy or anything. Garfield is the thing that you read in between your heavy stuffs, which I should have done this week, but it was Garfield. I had to read it first.
So you get the heavier stories out of Heathcliff?
Yes, and Top Cat. But look, this is definitely, it's all ages. It's Garfield. If you've ever seen a Garfield movie or TV show, the cartoon or anything, pick this up. Yeah, I thought it was great.
So we learned Garfield's Garfield's love of lasagna is a paternal connection, not just a obsession of food.
I think so. I'm still waiting to see if it's because his dad hates Mondays that he does.
Probably. Whole new aspect of the character.
Ewoks, baby. Okay. So Ewoks is perfect for people that always wanted to see Ewoks in a more serious light. This is feels like it's more from their point of view, but also you have this interaction with, I'll explain it. They're all okay. So after the actions of Jedi, you have people that obviously got their butts kicked in the Empire, end up back on their ships, and they got their booties kicked by little furry things, so they get a lot of sass, but also they're trying to find a way to save face. So in this one of the commanders from Endor says, hey, there's a huge cache of weapons that we left behind down there, and I will make up for it by going back and getting them. But it's not going to be that straightforward. And also there's a little bit of questioning by the Empire whether he is who he says he is. Is he playing this straight? So that's cool. I like those kind of through lines where it's not a clear bad guy, good guy line. And then also you see a lot of from point of view of the Ewoks, which they're really cool. You just see more of like their interactions for how Chief Chirpa interacts with the rest of his tribe and what their roles are. And the art is really cool in them, by the way. And you get to see a whole new Ewok that I know that they've said that it's a new Ewok. He doesn't appear in anything else that I've seen ever before. So, and it's a really cool design. So, I mean, if you hate Ewoks, it's not going to change your mind probably, because you probably got your mind all set. But if you just had an inkling, I just wish I had seen something that wasn't, them saying yub yub all the time.
I think the Ewoks get grossly underestimated, because if you think about it, in the original movie, they were going to cook and eat Han Solo.
Yeah, no big deal.
And when Leia showed up, they had a dress ready for her.
I didn't think about that.
Someone else is gone.
Hey, Bar Lord. Yeah, I didn't think about. They actually do mention her as part of their lore, because Chief Chirp was talking about. I actually think it was somebody else telling a story to the younglings about their interaction with Princess Leia and how awesome she was. So yeah, I wonder if they had like some kind of, clearly they had a gold deity, but I wonder if they had a woman deity that we didn't know about.
Could be.
Anyway, so this is awesome.
All right, staying with Star Wars. I'm a fan of the High Republic. When it first came out, I was on that first novel, listened to it through audiobook, and went, I need a copy of that, and bought a hardcover of it. This is in that universe. This is also the Acolyte universe that we saw on TV, though Disney really didn't showcase this particular era as well as they could have. They do a lot of these adventure stories, and this is geared probably a little more towards kids. Anytime they slap the word adventures on a comic, they're toning it down just a little bit. But Star Wars was made for kids in the first place, so you got to keep that in mind. This is focused on a planet that the big bad in the High Republic era are called the Nihil, and they've caused a separation among the stars, and there's this area that has been kind of closed off to the Jedi, except for the Jedi that were already in that area. And they find a way to send these old droids in to try to get reports from that area. And that's what this is going to be about. The From Beyond the Storm Wall is what they're calling it. And this is particularly about this this group of people on this one planet who are fighting the Nihil, led by the blue Jedi in the center there. And just we find out why the planet is the people on the planet are now kind of trying to push out both the Nihil and the Jedi. And they, where they used to have really good relations. And that's the gist of the story. So it's the start of something. It's a new issue. And again, you got to really pay attention when you buy these, because there's a few different series going on at the same time. So Stories from Beyond the Storm Wall is this one. There's like 2 others that came out today too. I found this one really good. It's good art, good story. And it does continue from the novels really well. So again, even though it's geared towards slightly younger readers, if you are reading the High Republic stuff, it's a nice addition to that universe they're building.
And also, if you're thinking about coming and checking out this one, there's 2 other High Republic adventure titles out tomorrow, so you can save yourself. You can get more bang for your trip. You can get 3 stories.
All right, Johnny Quest number 3. I haven't hopped on this train yet, which is surprising given the stuff that Dynamite has been putting out lately. But
yeah, I read the first issue and it was great.
I'm thinking I should, to be honest, just based off this issue. The story is a bit different, than I expected, but in a good way. It's different, but in a good way. It's the classic team in the future, and I don't mean they modernized the team. There's some time travel afoot.
Oh.
And they meet some spoiler characters that I won't say. You're going to have to read the book to find out who they are. But I will say this. The art in the book is pretty good. And you can tell who the characters are, but it doesn't feel like it rips, because some comics do this, and it's not a bad thing, but this doesn't feel like they ripped it straight from cells. Like there's a uniqueness to the character designs. Like you could tell it's them, but it doesn't feel like exactly spot on. And it doesn't always have to be like that either, I was a huge fan of the cartoon. Okay. But from what I've read of this issue, you don't have to be a fan of the cartoon to really get into it. It's a very good, like, adventure, kind of sci-fi-ish with one of the elements, kind of story. And to me, for right now, I'm going to give it a very tentative hashtag not that bad, only because I need to read the first 2 issues. But I would definitely tell people that they should grab this, because this one issue does have my attention. So you should definitely check this out if it seems at all interesting to you.
And if you are reading this book or you do pick it up, go back about 2 months on the Dan Wickline show. I have an interview with Joe Casey, the writer, about this book. There's a lot of great stuff that comes out of that interview.
Yes.
So.
You should be watching the Dan Wickline show anyway. Ooh.
Oh, Sentinels. Okay. I will say, if you are a fan of the 90s storylines, that's a little bit spoilery, because the last page has got a big, big spoiler on it. I will just say, think about all the storylines that happened for the X-Men in the 90s, and you might think about which one they might have touched back on here. This is a team being formed. It's very interesting. It looks like this is post Krakoa, that the people, I'll say people, that make up the Sentinels team that you meet, there is something bad that's going on, in that they seem to have some kind of possible corruption, in which it looks like they start to become, see down there in the picture where not the skull part, but where it looks mechanical, that something happens. And if that conversion starts happening, that you might find yourself unalived, as Jay would like to say, unalived. So this is an interesting thing. It kind of brings forward the idea that, as horrible as Sentinels are and were, that they were a necessary thing and are still a necessary thing. And they give an example in the book of something that happened historically, where there was a woods that was full of wolves, and there were 2 peoples that lived on either side of the forest. The king decided to completely rid the forest of wolves. And as a result, these 2 groups of people who had not had interaction with each other for many generations finally had interactions with each other. The problem is they started killing each other. So in the story, the Sentinels are the wolves. So it's a really great, great story. I really enjoyed it, and it's no surprise because it's my friend Alex that's writing it, and he knows if you, like, even if none of the people are people in your book, if you give them qualities that make me care about them, I will read your book. So for big fans of 90s storylines, definitely don't miss it. Even if you don't know anything about 90s storylines, you will still want to pick this up. So get it.
Seance of the Asylum. Now, this is not where I'm going to take apart a letterer, but I do want to call the lettering into question here. The basic eye of this is a new book. Clay McLeod Graham, Andrea Moody. When you get an Andrea Moody book, there's going to be a feel to it. That's what their art does. That is how their art works. You just get that. It's kind of like a Ben Temple-Smith book. There's a certain ambiance that comes with their art. And you get that here. And the basic idea is we're in an asylum. It's set back in probably the 1800s. And there's a doctor who recently had a loved one that passed. And he's been looking more and more into the idea of seances and stuff like that. And he decides to bring a medium in to the asylum to help the patients with the idea that maybe those voices in their heads are something, that they're ghosts. And of course, you have the other psychiatrist in the ward who is completely against it. And, so that's the basic buildup of this. It's clever. It is an interesting take on the idea of, what ghosts might be, how they affect lives. So it's really clever from that point of view. My only knock against it, and I'm old, okay? When I sit down to read a comic, I want to be able to read the comic. And when I was a kid, you used a standard set of lettering, no problem. Here, they're doing a, letter that was written, and they're doing it in cursive handwriting and all of this stuff, which is a wonderful idea, except it's almost unlegible. So I had to super blow up the PDF so I could read this thing. Mm-hmm. And I can usually sit it at 100% or 110 and do okay. I had to go up to 150 to read this. So if you're the letterer on this particular book, and I'm not going to call you out by name, I'm saving that. Stop it. Just stop it. Don't get fancy. Tell the story. The lettering is supposed to disappear. Just become part of the art, part of the... Otherwise, it's a really good, fun first issue. Where they go is going to be kind of interesting. They obviously are going to put a lot of drama into the lead character, the medium who comes in. She's going to have some drama in her backstory that'll play out through this as well, and everybody. So you've got that, where the part that fascinates me is the actual seance being used to try to help people who have mental issues. I think that's kind of a cool place to play. I'm hoping that doesn't get lost. It's like you see the new shows on TV where it's a police procedural, but they spend so much time with the backstories on all the officers and stuff that you forget to spend the time on actually telling a good police procedural. So.
Oh, yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog Annual 2024. So this was a skim, but as always, it's the colors and the chaos that are what makes these Sonic books for me. I was not a Sega kid. I had a Nintendo until I bought myself an N64. So it's not like I have a deep-rooted childhood memory of Sonic outside of the cartoons voiced by Jaleel White. That's about it. But one of the really fun things that they do in this book is they're just these wild panel layouts. Not your typical, what do they usually do? 4x4, 6x6 or whatever. I don't remember exactly. But they're very weirdly angled panels on the page. And they don't always control the action. You'll see a character pretty much doing this number, and here's the line. And they're like, it looks like they're reaching up in the next panel. I usually say that there are some books that you don't even need words, right? The art is just so good. It just tells the story for you. Now, granted, the art in this book isn't anything mind-blowing, mind you, but the art still does the same thing in this book. It's just, you can just look at it. There was a couple of times, even though I was just skimming it, that a page caught my eye, and next thing I knew, it was like 6 minutes later, and I'm still staring at the same page. Like, it just, bright, shiny colors, and I was just squirrel syndrome with that. But it's so animated and vibrant, you know. This is definitely a go back and read it for me. And Sonic fans, I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer. If you're a fan of Sonic, if you have been digging what they've been doing with the comics, I will say this, for it being a Sonic annual, I want to say Sonic was in it for maybe a page and a half. There's a ton of other characters that it shows, but again, it's just a fun, lighthearted book, you know, just one of those little palate cleansers. So that sounds cool. Make sure you go check this one out.
Okay. I wanted to definitely review this one for you guys today because as I've been telling you guys probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months now, I've been saying all of these $20.99 titles that don't look like they're necessarily a big deal. Like they did one for Miguel O'Hara. They did one for, I can't remember what the other one is. I think they did a Superior Spider-Man. No, that's not the right one. There was another S Spider-Man one they did. I think they've done 3 series so far for $20.99. And now this one shows up and looks like, okay, well, now another thing. They are building to a big $20.99 universe, an event for you guys. So the earlier you get into it and have these books, the easier it will be for you. Because I worry that if you get too far back, if you like a $20.99 idea, that it's going to be hard to pick up those pieces. So you probably can get them from your LCS right now fairly easily. But if you're a completionist, probably now's the right time. You could wait for graphic novels for those things and grab those up also. But just know there is a game plan that is a longer game plan than just, you know, this issue, this series. This one deals with, it actually gives you an origin or home world, it looks like, for Dracula, which we've never, I don't think, had before. He's a key player in this book. And introduces a bunch of other characters I think have been around, but I have not been familiar with. But the important event that happens in this book, other than getting to see a homeworld, is you get to see, it's very clear from this front cover, but I'm not giving you a lot of spoilers. There is a major confrontation between Miguel and Nova. So I'm going to leave it to you guys to read the book to find out why in the world that would possibly happen. But I'm excited. Ever since they started putting Dracula back into the mix for all the blood feud stuff, I've been like, he's kind of a dope character. So just a heads up. I wanted to make sure you guys knew that this existed so you didn't miss it.
Yeah, when I saw this cover, I was like, I'm using this one. There's something about the way they have that fusion of Nova and Miguel. I was like, that's a nice cover.
Mm-hmm. Could we slip into a Vampirella title?
All right. Tales from the Dead Side, Shadow Man and Punk Mambo. This, I believe, is a one-shot. It's a tie-in to the Resurgence thing. And coming into this, I am a big fan of Valiant books. Okay, I've got Bloodshot right there. Okay, when they filmed Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe, I went to the set and interviewed the guys who were playing. I met Jason David Franks and all the guys guy playing Ninjak. I'm there. I'm a huge fan. And if I got a call asking me to write for them, in a heartbeat. That said,
you got to meet Anston Mount then. He played Exo.
No, I got cannot remember his name now. But he also played Deadshot on Arrow.
Michael Rowe.
Michael Rowe. He's the guy that played Ninja. Yeah. Love these characters. The stories in there. It's definitely you don't need it. But there's some good stuff in it. There was a Pink Mambo story with the Doctor
Master Dark?
No, the one whose husband's dead.
Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about. Man,
Mirage? Dr. Mirage?
Mirage.
Okay, there you go. Dr. Mirage and Pink Mambo traveling through the dead side to try to find where her husband Hank really is. That's great stuff. There's a front story that maybe it's a setup. It deals with a Lao. And if it is a setup for something, great. If it's not, then, there's not much to it. And then there's the origin story of Shadow Man's little monkey companion, Jaunty.
Oh, cool.
So, and that's actually very cool. My problem with the book, and this is where the lettering thing, you've got some good art. It's not great art, but it's good art. It's really good to look at. It's got some good mood to it, stuff like that. But the lettering throughout this book is almost amateurish. Their panels are dialogue boxes are out of sequence, to the sense when you letter a book, the whole idea is that it works with the art. The artist is going to make your eye go from the top left panel, naturally flow in the order they want it to the next page. It's called the backwards S. It's a standard storytelling thing. When a letterer comes in, their job is to make that even smoother. So they lay out the dialogue and the word balloons so that the flow works. Don't cover anything, and they need to work with the writer. If there's a panel that's getting just blasted with dialogue, it's like, can we cut a little bit of this or something? Just because you're flooded. The first story in here is flooded in a lot of panels, and it's not laid out well at all. It actually takes your eye to other directions. One of the panels takes you basically up to the top right corner of the page at the end of the panel. And, where you're naturally going to the next panel, you have to jump up here. And if you have to quickly shift in your reading, it takes you out of the story. So I haven't had a chance to read a lot of the Valiant books that are coming from Alien. So I don't know if this is a sign that maybe the quality of their books isn't as good as they were before. I've been saving them as they come in, but I haven't had a chance to really look through them because I love these characters. So when I get the books for you guys, I put those ones aside and I'm going to read these later. This is the first one I've had a chance to read. Now, story-wise, it's neat to hear the origin story of Jaunty. If the first story actually connects to the Lao, or the Lao, the chauffeur that he deals with is important, great. Otherwise, it's just feels like filler. So I'd say if you're in the shop, first thing, go to your shops. Just get in the shops. But skim through this one. Take a second, see if this is going to be one you like. If not, maybe it's time, put your money on something else, a different book. But either way, pick it up and take a look at it and make the decision for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I think Alien's doing this thing where they acknowledge that the stuff that they're putting out might be the first interaction that anybody has with Valiant. So they are kind of like having to do we're going to give you kind of origin, let you know about this character. More like if you're a seasoned Valiant reader, it probably does feel like filler. Yeah. But maybe if you're new, it might be like, oh, thank goodness, I understand who this person is.
Well, and for me, reading the other books, I haven't read this one. The other books have been really, really good.
Good.
So,
Glad to hear that.
Especially Eternal Warriors. I like me some Western.
So good.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I did not know what to expect from this one.
Chaos.
Well, it's just for me personally, Ahoy Comics is pretty hit or miss. But I will say I enjoyed this one. It surprised me though, and I when I get into the review, I'll tell you why it surprised me. I did enjoy this more than other books I've read from Ahoy. This one takes an interesting approach to the origin story by taking us through day 4 of quarantine in Tromaville, to day 1 when we see Melvin, who actually in this book doesn't look like that bad of a guy. Like in the movie, they made him just nerdy and not a good-looking guy. He looks like a kind of good-looking guy in this one. But they show that how he gets turned into the Toxic Avenger, and it's not anything like it was in the movie at all. It's a train filled with waste, and he's getting chased down tracks. So this is just the thing that I expected from this, because it is an Ahoy book, and I've seen what they've done with other books. It's honestly, I expected to be a little bit more on the gross side, and it's really not. Like for a Toxic Avenger book, you expect just a smidge of nastiness. I mean, there are parts where it could be, but I just expected this to go a little bit harder than it did. But this was a fun book. It's a new design for Toxie. And by the end of this, I remembered, well, yes, in fact, I do love the monster. Even though they toned down the gore, this was still a pretty fun read. I would say instead of looking at it through the goggles of the movie, I would look at it through the goggles of the cartoon. If anybody ever watched the short-lived but hilarious cartoon they had, the Toxic Crusaders, I think it was called. Mm-hmm. You'll have a fun time with this. I did. Maybe in the following issues they'll go for it, but if not, it's still a pretty fun read. So,
did this have any tie-in to the unreleased reboot that Peter Dinklage did?
No,
because I was thinking maybe because it didn't get released, maybe they're borrowing that story.
Well, that part, the story part, I don't know, but like I said, it's a new origin story for this character, at least.
I do have to say, Toxie's cut.
For real.
Yeah.
He has not skipped leg day.
No.
He's upgraded to Lululemons as well.
That's true, yes. I love it. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to tell you that I have not read the ongoing Green Lantern series for a while. So just know all of my knowledge for Green Lantern comes from my longtime love of John Stewart, and the rest of the, Lanterns can suck it. But anyway, he's in here. Yay! This actually has all of the Lanterns.
Life.
Yes, Eric. So this is all of the Lanterns. You meet Kilowog, who has more than one ring, weirdly wearing yellow, who comes across, I think it's Kyle and can't remember who the other Lantern that's with them. Maybe John is with them at that point. So that's right. Sorry, Nick. I gotta be controversial sometime. Remember to just say I'm all hearts and rainbows all the time. So anyway, he's wearing.
There's no creativity in engineering.
Kilowog, who doesn't appear to be Kilowog really, steals this very powerful ring, and it takes off. Then it becomes all of the Lanterns trying to hunt him down and figure out what he's doing, in which they come across a bunch of other Lantern-like beings that and a big bad, who, that's why I'm saying I don't know enough to know whether this big bad has been around before. It like really ups its game for like what's possible and the threat level. Weirdly, the cover is kind of a lie because that Red Lantern does not appear in this book. I hate that.
Isn't that Sinestro?
It is, but he's not in the book. Unless they put him in a corner somewhere.
I'm trying to get over the fact that Sinestro's wearing red. That makes no sense.
At all.
Yeah.
But so this leads into, so I know it says special, and it looks like it might not tie in anywhere, but it actually says that it's continued in the next issue of Green Lantern. So if you're a regular Green Lantern reader, you probably should pick this up to know what's going on so you are lost for the next one. So why does Kyle get so much crap? Because he's Kyle.
Rancor and Dexstar for life.
The Autumn Kingdom. First thing, Colin Bunn must have had like 20 minutes in his day and wrote another comic. Because I'm a fast comic writer, and this guy prints them out like a ditto machine. And for all of you out there who don't know what a ditto machine is, it's an old way we used to do copies before Xerox. Anyway, the Autumn Kingdom, it's tough for me because I'm jumping in on the second issue. But we've got two sisters who are in a foreign country. They don't actually say if it's like Norway or Sweden, but it feels like one of those countries. And they're on vacation with their family, and monsters eat them. Fairy folk take the parents, and the two sisters are on their own, and they come across a giant ass sword. So of course you got a good story right there. The thing that threw me off though is the opening and closing are written almost like a fairy tale. The dialogue boxes are written like a fairy tale, and then that conceit gets dropped in the middle, and you're like, okay, we're dealing with reality because they're trying to get help, and they're not, somebody, hears them talking to, oh, you're Americans. So it's supposed to be a grounded story in a sense that has the Fae in it. But the opening and closing, like I said, so you read the opening and you get the whole fairy tale thing, and then suddenly you're thrown into the real world, but there's no difference. It's not suddenly, oh, this is what's happening in the Fae world, and then in the real world, in a big city or whatever like that, you would expect that kind of flip. And it's like, no, there's still two girls carrying a giant sword. So, but it's interesting. The art is fun. Christopher Mitten's doing a good job on that. And Colin really does craft great stories. So I want to see what the purpose of the fairy tale conceit at the front and the back are. But other than that, it's kind of an interesting setup that you've got, this sword that, gets lighter when there's danger around, which seems like a great idea. It's easier to use. The problem is it gets heavier when no danger's around, and you still got to drag its thing around. You know, like a cosplayer who thought the giant sword was a good idea. They're going to the convention, and then halfway through, they're like, "Why did I do this? Why?"
Reach.
So overall, this is a pretty clever book. I'd love to go back and read issue 1 and see what the connections are. And it's definitely going to tie into whatever, I want to say Nordic. It just has a Nordic feel to it, customs and stuff. So again, if you're a Colin Bunn fan, he's just continuing doing great stuff. You know, he's got his wheelhouse. He's knocking him out, you know, the old Ditto machine. So.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So many good sounds that just like, you know, when they do those like memes that like show us an image that you can hear.
Mm-hmm.
You guys hear this image?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just hear, "Come with me if you want to live."
You want to live. Yeah. Okay. So there are 2 stories in this book.
You read
First
it
one
too?
is by Declan Shelby. And let's see who the artist is. I wrote it down. Luke Sparrow. And then there is another story that's just a beginning of the first 2 pages of a 10-page story that'll be kind of like the backup story that was written by Sal, who I interviewed earlier today. So if you want to see that, it is easy to view right after this show if you'd like to. Okay, so the premise of this part is that you know, time travel is very key to what has been going on in the Terminator universe for a long time. Like, how far out can they go to try to still affect change for the machines? And I'm assuming as far as they want. But this story seems to follow, I'm going to guess, husband and wife. They're definitely a couple at different ages. It seems like their purpose was really early on to just get out of town, like literally go live in the middle of the woods and not have any interaction and hopefully just have a life, you know, maybe have kids and maybe, you know, in obscurity, fish for things or whatever. But the story really does tell this heartbreaking tale of them always being found by this one Terminator, because, you know, of course, they will never, ever stop. Once they have a mission, never stop. But you don't know why in the story this Terminator is trying to hunt this family. And it's unsure whether it's the man or the woman that he's after. It is really, really cool. And this concept, I think you'll start to see it like spread out in time. And the little 2-page story that Sal wrote at the end is also very cool. It just has this idea of a Terminator showing up, not even with a skin on. He just shows up in his like time bubble as the actual, you know, robot form. And it just has a couple of interactions where you see kind of like from his eye camera. And the thing that comes up on the screen is different within the 2 pages between what the things he's looking at. I don't want to wreck anything for you because it's such a short part. I don't want to get you like, so you're like, eh. But pay attention to what the eye scan words say that's different between the first and the second one. I'm super intrigued. And there are a bunch of really beautiful covers for this book. You'll have a hard time deciding, honestly, for all of them. And if you don't know what the options are out there, it's cool. At the back of every Dynamite book, as far as I know, they have an actual double page spread or a triple page spread with the cover of every single option, like even store variants, ratio variants, all of those. So you can always see what there is available to be able to know which one.
Also, Dynamite Entertainment's Instagram site, they put up all the new books for the week, and they will show all the variant covers on that. So you can check that out along with like a 5-page teaser for each issue.
Yeah, there's even a Dynamite.com exclusive. I think it's this cover, but it's a metal embossed cover.
Oh,
So I also read this book. I didn't know Miss Jim was going to review it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just jumped on your book. Hey, gummit.
Oh, you're good. It's always great to hear different opinions on books. No, not at all. You review it better than I do because I'm just going to say, feels like I say this with every Dynamite book lately. This book is tremendous. This is a really great book. And it's one of those, if there's anybody out there thinking that they're following the movies or anything, nope. This was an original story. And it worked. And because, a lot of us grew up watching Terminator and all those awesome movies, you don't need a lot of explanation about what's going on. You know it's a Terminator. You know what he's there for. We start out in the year 2018. We have a little flashback to, I think, 1979 with this couple. And this Terminator has, like Ms. Jen said, been following this couple all these years. Now, it's the way that ends for me that feels so, okay, that's done. Where are they going to go next? What are they going to do? And that's why y'all should read this.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of blew me away that how this story ended. Where do they go from here? That was the big question I had. So, telling y'all, Dynamite, y'all. I am someone who I wasn't a big Vampirella fan. Sorry, folks, Barbarella, any of those characters, but the newer stuff they're putting out, especially the last book on my list, just have been tops. They really have. I don't say that because Nick's probably still lurking in the chat. I say that because I mean it. These books have been really great. So all the teams working on these books, y'all have done a fantastic job, folks. Honestly, don't let the billion covers, turn you off. Pick up this book.
I wasn't supposed to review this one either, but I read it for fun, and it's awesome. It's also, this Terminator is basically the $2 kid from Better Off Dead. He's just not going to stop. So,
and it's me again. So, Duck and Cover. Finally, after all these years, I get to read issue 2 of this. We ended up reading issue 1 on in-stores this week. So that kind of tells you how long it was before I got to read it again for a minute to skim it. And we ended that issue with a decapitation, and we begin this one with the same severed head. And keep in mind, aliens. Just keep that in your mind when you go into this book. This was 50 pages. Okay, so once again, skimmed, but I am going to go back and read the whole thing. It's aliens, it's monsters, it's a DJ who finds out how to fly the ships, and it centers on a centuries-old conspiracy. There's things that we learn in this book that I was like, man, that smart. One of them, no spoilers, we finally, once and for all, learn why we were told to get under the desks in case of a nuclear strike. They tell you in this book why they really had that thing going on. Because all of us know those old desks weren't going to save us from anything. So, but they tell you why in this book. Like I said, I will be going back and reading this. It's a great blend of mystery and sci-fi horror, and cheesy like monster movies of the 50s. It's got that kind of vibe in it for just a few panels. So I'm telling y'all, if you're into any of that, you should definitely check this book out. It's really good. And plus, look who the writer is. It's Scott Snyder. I'm a big Snyder fan. So trust me, you're not going to be disappointed in this book.
Eddie.
Rocketeer. Rocketeer, Dave Stevens created something amazing with Rocketeer, but it was so tied to his art and so tied to him and the story he was telling, it always felt personal. You know, the character felt like it was Dave. So whenever I read later stuff, it's hard for me to kind of get into it because it feels like people are just trying to be Dave. Love Joe Johnston's movie with Bill Campbell. I mean, that's just phenomenal. But the comics so far have been kind of, it's like, okay, yeah, it's the Rocketeer, but is it the Rocketeer? Stephen Mooney has been writing them, but Staz Johnson is now the art on these. He's doing the art on these. And he's not trying to be Dave. He's trying to be Staz Johnson. And in doing so, he's giving us these characters that you know who they are. There's no doubting it. But he's not trying to be Dave. And that suddenly makes it start working. It's like when they switch creative teams on Batman. You don't stop reading it. It's just, okay, new artists take on Batman. I'm ready. Let's go. It's finally making that shift where this character starts standing on its own. Also, they're kind of digging more into the Nazi elements, the World War II elements, which really came to play some, but Dave never really pounded on them. There was more like Nazis were easy to be the bad guy. The movie did a little bit more with it, but this is starting to feel like there's more urgency. There's more threat. It's not just him happening into things. There's reasons and stuff like that. So it's a good continuation of the character. Because, I mean, you look at Batman that we had in 1939, and you compare him to the Batman we have now, he has evolved and grown through the years, not only from the change of times, but the change of creative teams coming in, finding that thing in the character and expanding on it and on the surroundings and stuff. That's what's starting to happen here finally. The character is finally growing. It's not just trying to pump out the next Dave Stevens book. It's becoming the Rocketeer. He's becoming a full-fledged character, and they're doing a great job with it. I really enjoyed this issue, and I'm going to go back and get the rest of them and stuff like that. So there you go.
And if you want more great commentary and knowledge, you should watch the Dan Wickline show on Thursdays.
You got it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. There is a reason why everyone's been talking about this book nonstop for the last month, as people have gotten advanced copies and or PDFs. And for everybody that read all in, started getting excited about what's coming. I will tell you don't have to have read the all-in book special from last week. It doesn't really touch on this book at all. This stands alone as its own thing, although it's part of the all-in universe. I will tell you that this gives you, there's no pearls. There's different origin. This is totally different, y'all. You see Alfred Pennyworth as a complete BA. Think like secret agent Liam Neeson, who has been called back from his assignment just to observe what's going on in Gotham, because there's these weird groups. I think they're called Party something, that are literally showing up and like killing everyone in a daycare, tying moms and their babies to bumpers to see what happens as they drive away. It's terrible. Gotham's falling apart. You can't walk outside. It's bad. And in this, you meet Bruce. Totally different. Totally, like, he is that big. He's a massive young man. I can totally see now, since Alan Richardson has been making his play for the Batman role, this is the Batman role for him because he is a massive man.
I would love that.
You will need a massive person to pull this thing off. I will tell you, this book has already been pre-sold out at distribution for 3 weeks. So if you're going to get a copy of it, get with your LCS. You will be sad if you don't. Second print has already been offered. It's already that crazy. So can't recommend it more highly. Even if you hate Batman, you will not dislike this book.
Alan Richmond is short, by the way. Richardson.
Who cares?
Yeah, compared to Dan, the Giants, I don't want to hear it.
I love Reacher, but every time I hear he's only 6'2", I'm like, dude.
Yeah, well, some of us are only 5'3". Space Ghosts, y'all.
Yeah.
Go back and watch any previous review I have of this book, because you're going to get the same broken record answer, same commentary. And you may ask, well, Jay, if you don't have anything new to say, why do you keep reading it? Because I can't help it is the only answer I can give you. Man, this just 6 issues of a character that outside of hearing people talk about them, I never knew anything about, and I absolutely love his comic. You know, I aspire to be rich enough one day to buy any panel and page of art from this book from Nick, because I can go on about the art all day when it comes to this book. Like, you know, every single issue is exciting and introduces me to new threats like Moltar that's on the cover here. And just, it pushes the boundaries of what I thought were the boundaries of art and color. The book just, it amazes me with how it looks. It really does. I cannot wait to get this in trade, because I'm going to read it all the way through again, because I enjoy the story so much. Any comic that can be like, hey, you know nothing about this character, now you're going to love this character. I'm going to make you love this character. And how I missed out on this dude when I knew Johnny Quest and Hong Kong Phooey and all those other characters, I have no idea. But I did, and I'm so glad David and team have done what they've done to this book, or for this book, I should say. As long as we're getting issues of this on this show, I'm going to read every issue for y'all. I just am. And I'm going to tell you every time, jump on it. Get this book. The hype is so real with this book. It's insane. And, you know, as far as superhero books go, this is one of my favorite ones. You know, I can't read Superman or Batman just yet for this show, but this is my go-to in lieu of that. Not being able to read those books, this is my superhero book. So, safe to say, get this book, folks. I'm done rambling now. Get this book for real.
Perfect.
And that is all we got for today.
Thanks, guys. Sorry we're costing you money, but we're at least getting you focused in on the books that are, you know, are good. You're not wasting your money.
Yeah, so unfortunately, y'all, no Mint Hunter tonight, but you should definitely come back, hang out with the greatest showman in modern comics at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, kicking it with Henri Compen, another established writer. We have so many talented folks on the experience, like Dan Wickline. I'm going to talk about him for just a second because he is a tremendous writer. And, you know, Miss Jen, being the amazing comic shop owner she is, doing good deeds, giving the books to the people, talking to the awesome people who create things that I love as a fan. I love seeing these interviews. I love being able to hang out with you folks. So yeah, Miss Jen, you're going to be on the CBSN.
I'm going there right now. I was just going to say apologies to everyone. I am going to have to run over there because I'm 2 minutes late to start the show. So you guys keep talking. There's no reason for you guys to stop.
Take care, Miss Jen. All right, Dan. Since we do have just a little bit of time, you want to tell us what we can look forward to on Thursday?
Thursday, what I'm going to talk about is that I've covered a lot of what I think is the negative toxicity that's going towards Marvel lately. And that's great. Or that's bad, but I've covered that quite a bit. I actually think there's also a certain agreement that Marvel made with fans going into this when they said, we're going to make a cohesive universe. We're going to put out 20, 30, whatever properties. They made a promise to us, and there's things they're not holding up. And I'm going to break down what those are and why I think it's important for them to be addressed, even if it's not necessarily financially sound. And it's something that Star Wars has to keep in mind too, and DC with the stuff they're doing now.
Awesome. Y'all, if you're not watching the Dan Wickline show or the programming that comes after, the Geek Chat, or What's in the Box comes first.
The Box, Geek Chat, and then
with Mog and Mel. Yeah, you're missing out. Great programming all week. I will see everyone again on Friday for the art show and for Friday Night Live. Dan, always a pleasure getting to see you, boss.
Good to see you too, sir. It's been a while.
Yeah. But everyone out there, thank you for being here. Don't forget, hit the thumbs up on your way out. Come back in a few minutes. Leave us a comment. Tell us what books you're excited for this week. We really want to know. I come back and I check the comments. So really want to hear what y'all are excited for. So for Dan, I've been Jay. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.